Today on CityCast Nashville, we're the Bachelorette capital of the world. But how do you do your girls' night right? Joining us is Jonathan Slater, a former male entertainer who's worked for a downtown male revue, party buses, and a local business called Butlers in the Buff. He's seen it all, folks, and he's here to share the do's and don'ts of being a good bachelorette in Nashville. It's Thursday, April 24th. I'm your host, Marie Cecile Anderson, and this is what Nashville's talking about. In the past, 20 years here, Nashville has become a top bachelorette destination in the world. What do you think makes a great bachelorette party?
I've been involved in a lot of bachelorette parties, whether it would be like private parties that I worked for a company that I used to work for or the venue that I worked at. But I do think that like planning's super important. But I think that when you come into Nashville as a bachelorette party, you're like, oh, we're here, we're a bachelorette party and we want to get everything done for our bride. It's kind of hard to like fully grasp that there's a lot of bachelorette parties here.
Right.
Like a ton.
I do think people get shocked when they're like trying to make a dinner reservation and they're like, oh, we can't get anything. It's like, yeah, because people have been planning for years for their bachelorette parties to come to Nashville.
Exactly. So I think planning, calling ahead, having like an itinerary is super important. And I think that patience is next to that. I think about it through the lens of like someone who worked in like the entertainment industry, but also someone who worked in retail, that it's just really important to come into this and to know like no matter how much you planned, it's really hard for people to navigate that from, the like industry standpoint. Third, but also first is safety. That's a huge thing. I think it's really important for, if you're downtown having fun, drinking, partying, whatever, like to like have like a buddy system, or just in general, be cautious about what's happening around you. There have definitely been times where I would be leaving the venue at around 2-3 o'clock in the morning. And I would come across girls that were like solo. They were very intoxicated. And it's like, where are your friends? Do I need to get the cops? Like, what's going on here? So I really personally can't stress enough how important it is to like keep up with your friends. If you go somewhere together, you leave together.
Great advice for bachelorettes. What makes a terrible bachelorette party?
I know that there were times for myself where I think it's important to like have our boundaries respected, especially, working in the industry. I think a lot of times people aren't used to hearing no, or they think like the rules don't apply to me, or they're heavily intoxicated, any of those things. But I think that if I tell you no about something, I 100% mean no. That doesn't mean that you can coerce me. So I think that's a thing, is just going back to patience, is to really understanding when you go into these places. We get that you're here as a bachelorette party and you're trying to have a good time, but also like we have to navigate your presence and also the thousands or tens of thousands of other people here as well. So just, understand that there are a lot of people who serve for 12 plus hours. They're people too. They're not just a vessel to get the thing that you want.
I do really want to set the stage for our listeners of the male revue that you used to work for. I had the honor of attending once, and it really truly was one of the greatest nights of my life. I had a friend in town, and I brought her, and we had such a great time. And everyone really was, the night that I went, so respectful. All the other ladies there were very respectful. But can you set the scene for the listeners at home of what this place kind of looked like and what the people there were experiencing?
Everyone's seen Magic Mike, so obviously you kind of get like an expectation of what to get when you're there. But it almost looks like a runway for, for the entertainment. And then there's a stage as well right in front of the DJ booth, but it's all very open, And I think that was kind of the fun part of it specifically, is you kind of get to like, I love a girl's girl, when girls are like empowering other women, like I support that wholeheartedly. And I think that was kind of the fun of it, is you would be having a good time. The other girls would be having a good time. And then girls were hyping the girls up that were having a good time. The lighting was really fun. You know, you get like these like purple and blues and reds, and it's like this very like dimly lit thing. So it kind of gives early 2000s like nightclub vibes, you know, and then you get dancing going on. People are having a good time. It gets a little warm in there, you know, and some people were getting, you know, like moved around. It was a really good time. And it was fun.
Were there characters? Because the night I went, there were some firemen.
We had a fireman. There was a guy who kind of did like a Prince, or the artist formerly known as.
Yes.
He kind of did a lot of, and he was very talented. He did choreography for a lot of big names. I used to show up in overalls, cut off like above the knee. So they were kind of like shorty shorts, kind of like a blue collar vibe.
Well, the night I attended, there was a host who was a drag queen, and it did feel like the whole vibe in there was so inclusive, very diverse, and lots of respect was going around. Did you feel supported and safe doing this type of work in Nashville?
Shout out to Maya. That's the host that you're talking about for sure. She is absolutely amazing. She was there the entire time that I was there. And if she thought that she saw something that did need to be happening, or she was in a situation where she could kind of go like, hey, this group of people have been like looking at you the entire night, like make your way over there. So she kind of helped facilitate what was happening on the floor, which was really great. But yeah, I always felt like everyone had my back and I felt really supported. There were, you know, a few times where people got out of hand and you know, like you kind of have to do the normal thing where you're just like, unfortunately, this person has to go, you know? And it was really interesting because I feel like it happened to me way more frequently than it happened to other people. But also, like I said, I worked in retail for a really long time. So I think that I have this like persona and this personality of just, oh, this guy's super nice. But there was a time I was there and this girl literally took her nails and raked them down my back. It like broke skin and I was bleeding and I was like, yo, like you can't do that. And then she did it again. And I was like, okay, this person has to leave. And I think that one of the things that's difficult about working in that industry specifically, especially in Nashville, is the drinking culture.
Yes.
Everyone expects you to drink heavily, but then the bartenders have a difficult job of, have you had too much? And then you get into places, and some people, you know, it's hard to tell when they've had too much to drink. And then we had a hard job trying to navigate, you know, is this person too intoxicated for me to even interact with? And then there were times people would, you know, our back room where we would go to get dressed and stuff or change costumes or whatever it is. Girls would try to like come back there and we're like, you can't be back here. Like that's a liability for everyone. Now this is uncomfortable for me, you know?
Right.
And there would be times there would be like a group of, we'll say 6 girls, and like 5 of them are having the time of their life. And one of them's like, I don't know how my boyfriend would feel or whatever it is, right? And I totally get that. You reserve the right to feel however you want to. Like I respect your boundaries. But then their friends would be like, just do it. And I would have to stop them on a regular basis and say, hey, if your friend says no to something, that's no. I'm not pushing her boundaries because you think that it's fun or cute, because in no other circumstances would this be okay.
Were y'all given like consent or boundary training?
No, I think that you just have to navigate it the way that you would in, you know, a real life scenario. I don't think that your morals or your manners change depending on like what job you have.
This Mother's Day, if you're fortunate enough to have a great mom in your life, do not forget to call her like I did last year. To make it up to my mom this year, I am showing up with an Aura digital frame fully loaded with adorable photos of, well, me. I picked out the most ridiculous photos I could find, like baby me eating a houseplant or that awkward senior pic where I'm hugging a fence for some reason. After we have a good laugh, I'll show my mom how easy it is to swap out the pictures so she can add in shots of her grandkids too. Aura Frames was named the best digital photo frame by Wirecutter and featured in 495 gift guides last year. I know my mom will love it, and no matter who you give it to, they will too. Aura has a great deal for Mother's Day. For a limited time, listeners can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off plus free shipping on their best-selling Carver mat frame. That's auraframes.com. Promo code CityCast. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply.
What sort of promises have you made to yourself this year? Getting in better shape, eating healthier, saving more money, traveling somewhere new? What about discovering a new culture by learning a new language? With Babbel, you can do that in just a few weeks. I'm David Plotz, the CEO of CityCast, and I've been learning Spanish with Babbel. Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons, handcrafted by over 200 language experts, get you to begin speaking your new language in 3 weeks or whatever pace you choose. And because conversing is the key to really understanding each other in new languages, Babbel is designed using practical, real-world conversations. The Spanish I learned on Babbel really helped me on a recent trip to Mexico City, ordering in restaurants, shopping at the textile market, cheering on at the Lucha Libre, and I've been keeping it up since I got home. You're a podcast listener. I know that because you're listening here. I bet you'll love Babbel's new podcasts. On Eavesdrop in Espanol, which I listen to, you get to listen to a real conversation, then have the teacher host explain back to you. Then you listen again and catch everything. And you can even read along in the transcript. It's a really fun and effective way to learn. Let's get more of you talking in a new language. Babbel is gifting CityCast listeners 60% off subscriptions at babbel.com/CityCast. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/CityCast. Spelled BABBEL.com/CityCast. Babbel.com/CityCast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
We ask this question a lot to our own selves, but do you think downtown Nashville is meant for tourists or locals?
Oh, 100% tourist. Like 100% tourist. I know I used to hang out in East Nashville a lot. So much to the point where I know that people in that area prefer for tourists to not be there at all. But downtown is like, I will only go there if I'm specifically asked to go there by someone I know that doesn't live here. Like if it's someone I know, I'm like, bro, I don't want to, like, it's going to cost us $20 to Uber there, $40 to Uber out of Nashville. And then we're probably going to spend another $100 and something down there drinking, if not more. It's just so much all the time. And I love downtown Nashville. Don't get me wrong. I know people that work down there. I love the atmosphere. I grew up partying. Like, I get it. But it's inconvenient to be there as a local.
Well, so then why did you get a job down there?
Money. Money. Yeah. So I grew up down in Manchester. And then I moved to Murfreesboro, and a guy that I knew from high school messaged me and was like, hey, man, are you still in the gym? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, do you still know how to dance? Because I grew up doing like hip hop dance because I'm from Chicago.
Oh, so you're from Chicago, grew up in Manchester.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, I can still move a little bit. And he was like, do you want to come make some money? And I was like, you said the magic word. Where? When and where? So I actually started on a party bus that used to go around downtown.
Oh, my God. You worked on one of the party buses? I've always wanted to talk to somebody who has done that.
Yeah, I worked on, I forget the name of the business, but I worked on a party bus. And then I also worked for a company called Butlers and the Buff.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Do you know about them?
Another friend of mine worked for them. So I saw some of the costumes and I was like, this is incredible.
Yeah. I worked there for basically the duration of the time that I worked at the club as well. And like the first night that I went down there, I made a lot of money. So I ended up doing it, I think, for about 3 or 4 years, if I remember correctly. It was tough a few times. I own and operate a small business. So I was working at Starbucks from 4:30 in the morning, and then I would go do stuff for my business from like 10 to 3. come home, go to the gym, take a nap, shower, and then go back to the venue. And then I wouldn't get home until like 3 o'clock the next morning. There were times where I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it.
Oh, wow. Do you still have your small business on the side as well?
Yeah.
Can we shout that out right now then?
For sure. I own a small business called Laundry Lads. We do pickup and delivery laundry for other small businesses in the Nashville, Murfreesboro area. So we primarily service spas, salons, massage therapists, things like that. And then I met someone randomly at the club who told me about this software boot camp that I ended up starting. So now that I have that piece of knowledge, my brain is saying, hey, you should just start a tech startup.
Whoa.
So,
oh my gosh.
We'll
Wow.
see where that goes.
So wait, how many jobs do you have right now?
Well, currently I only have the one. My girlfriend was actually super supportive once I started the boot camp. She was like, hey, I know that you will work 4 jobs and do this if you need to. Please don't. You're going to be exhausted all the time. So right now I just own and operate my business. And I started an internship at a tech startup about 2 weeks ago. So I'm kind of hoping that gets me in the direction that I'm going.
So you're no longer at the Mail Review.
No, I aged out of that a little bit. You know, these, I always joke with people. I'm like, oh, Pop couldn't make it anymore.
Oh my gosh, you're so young.
No, I'm on the back end of my 30s now. So, you know,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, we're just kind of
aging out.
Yeah, I was like,
Review.
you know, I'm going to grow up eventually. So, you know, and it honestly, like I said, it was a fun job and I would have kept doing it. It just wasn't conducive to my like growth path.
What's the biggest misunderstanding people have about people in the adult entertainment industry?
I don't even know how to say this. I feel like a lot of times people see employees or workers as like, again, like a vessel to get what they want or what, you know, whatever it is, you know, like I'm not here to be like your trip advisory. You know what I mean? Like, oh, hey, where should we go or whatever. I don't even think that that's like a misconception. I think it's just not a thought that people might have. I've never heard anything like glaring where someone thought maybe I wasn't intelligent because I was doing the job. But I don't think there's any like real misconceptions. Just like, I'm not trying to party with you after this. I've just worked 4 hours in addition to the other things that I had to do.
Yeah, I was going to ask if these ladies were trying to get y'all to come out with them later, come back to their Airbnbs.
I've got actually 2 guys I knew. They were like always down to party. And I'm like, more power to you, bro. I'm going to go home and go to sleep. But I do think the cool thing about that is there's this whole like societal norm. Like if you're a guy and you go out with a girl, it's your responsibility to pay for drinks or food or whatever it is, right? Like that's just what we've subscribed to as a society. When I worked at the club and the girls were like, yo, come out, they bought drinks for the fellas like the rest of the night. It's weird because it feels like empowering, but then you're like, I feel like I should feel bad about this, but then I don't. But then I remember in the opposite, that's the norm. So it kind of challenged the status quo in general working in that industry specifically.
And I think maybe that's why women enjoy these male reviews so much, because the power dynamics are switched. You have the power, you have the money. It's pretty fun.
Yeah,
I will admit, it's pretty fun.
I absolutely 100% agree with that and support it. It was probably the highlight of that for me was understanding that what we've been taught, what's normal for us, doesn't have to be normal. And in fact, it seems like people enjoy when they don't have to subscribe to this.
Yep.
Do you want me to get on a soapbox about something? That's it. That is the thing.
Oh, that's great. Well, then we're almost at our end, but I want to ask, what advice would you give somebody who's curious about getting into this type of industry?
First thing you're going to do is you got to have the right connections. Knowing people is the key to pretty much anything. And not that it's hard to get into. It's just kind of a hard thing to initiate. Who do I know to talk to? The second thing is obviously, you know, you've got to kind of be in shape, kind of got to go to the gym. Now, myself, I'm a big guy, but I'm not chiseled out muscle. Like I'm just a muscular dude, right? So they would have all kind of variety of people there because like not everyone wants, the same looking individual. And then be like socially aware. Like the more of an extrovert and fun individual you are, the easier it is. I used to joke with people all the time. I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm just here because of my personality. I don't think that people completely understand like how much of a personality actually impacts working in that field. So if you're someone who, I don't want to talk to people, but I'm in good shape, it's probably not going to work out for you because people feel that. If you are just here for the money and you're not having a good time and you don't want people to feel like they're having a good time, it's not going to work.
And can you give us an idea of what y'all were making per night?
We definitely don't make on par with women, for sure. Not even a little bit. There's a dynamic that when guys go to a female strip club, they anticipate spending an exponential amount of money.
Right.
I don't think that that's the case in like a male review, mostly because I don't think that it's normalized to the point where people even know what to expect. I think the first summer I was there were weekends where I was making anywhere between $1,500 to like $2,000. And that was probably for about 8 to 12 hours of work, I think. We made a lot of money. My girlfriend used to laugh at me because she would come out in the morning and there would be like stacks of ones.
Did your girlfriend ever get jealous of your job?
She didn't love it. She supported me as an individual. She never was like, I don't want you doing this anymore. We spent a lot of money. Like we would go out to brunch on like a Sunday and I would drop like $500 on brunch because we would be like out doing stuff with friends. So she benefited from it, obviously, as well as I did. And she was actually ultimately the reason that I decided to leave Starbucks is because I was waking up at 3:30 to drive to work in the morning. And she was like, you can't keep doing this. You're miserable and you're trying to hold it together. But I can see that doing all of this stuff is making you miserable. And it's also the least amount of money that you're bringing in. So just stop doing it. And I'm one of those people, and I think a lot of men can relate to this. They have like an overwhelming obligation to their responsibilities.
You're a responsible man.
Yeah, my mom raised me to be responsible, and here we are.
Wow. All right, one last thing.
Sure.
What do you want to leave Bachelorettes coming to Nashville? One last little nugget to leave them with.
I really want you guys to be safe. I really do. And I know that that's not the fun thing to hear. I know that that's not like the partying thing to hear. But I really just watch your drinks. Don't drink in excess. Have a good time, but keep, some sort of like awareness of what's happening because you're responsible for your safety and we want you to make it back home.
This has been really, really fun. Thank you so much, John, for sharing your wisdom with us. And we'll shout out your local business in our show description. So check it out, y'all.
Sure. Thank you so much.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell your friends? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Nashville newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Toodles!